Growing up in the 80s, everyone was playing Nintendo. Fast forward almost 40 years later, and people are still making games for the system. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I try to find the very best homebrew Nintendo game.
Second Opinion Games.
2048. Well, it's a block sliding puzzle that most people have played on their cell phone, so it was easily ported over to Nintendo. But that's not the version I want to talk about. No, I'd much rather be playing the Blurred Lines version, because they take the music from that song Blurred Lines along with girls dancing on the screen and just two more 2048 action. However, sometimes the game seems to take control of itself and just move stuff over. This can really throw you off because you seem to be actively fighting against the game itself. However, it's still a ton of fun, and it's even really neat to see all the animations of the girls here. Berserk. This seems to be a remake of the arcade version on the Nintendo, complete with all of the voice sampling, and it plays, well, fairly well. The robots shoot at you, you hear destroy humanoids, stuff like that, and even Evil Otto is back to try and take revenge on you for killing all of his robot friends. Don't touch the walls or you'll die, and it's a very playable game, maybe even better than the Atari 2600 version. Sting, another game that looks like an Atari 2600 game. I'm not sure if this is a remake or an entirely new game. I've definitely played versions of this on things like the Vectrex of all places, and it's kind of fun. You have to control how much fuel you have. You're looking for key cards to open up doors, and it's ridiculously difficult, but once you get the hang of it, you won't be able to stop playing, at least until you try and find a game that just looks a little bit better than this. Lunar Limit. Now we're getting a little bit better. It's a high score game where you control a little ball as you fly around, and you seem to be very maneuverable in a bullet hell shooter. Dodging in and out of these bullets is fun and exciting, and the firing speed is just set to automatic. However, there's also power-ups on the stage which can give you super rapid fire, or maybe make all the enemies freeze in place, and this is just terrific to play. However, it's just the one screen really, and it's all about getting that high score. So what happens after you just played it as much as you care to? Well, there's nothing really more to see than what you see in the first 5 minutes of gameplay. Double Action Blaster Guys. Okay, so this is another simple game playing as little stick figure men trying to blast a whole lot of enemies on screen. You fall through the bottom, you come out the top. Sometimes it's not just about killing the enemies. Sometimes you have to collect dollar bills. And this would definitely be fun for a lot of people. There's multiple levels here. They give you clear expectations of what your goal is to accomplish in the game. And this is just a simple homebrew game. But I'm looking for something with a little bit more depth, maybe even inspired by other games, just a little bit more. Sonic the Hedgehog. Boy, he's been ported to like every system known to man, so of course he would get a Nintendo version, and this feels kind of like the Sega Master System version, but I think it was built from the ground up. You still have a spin dash, you can still awkwardly go through loop-de-loops, in what is a very competent version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Heck, I've definitely played worse if you played it on the Game Boy Advance. This version is a welcome addition, because it's a lot better than that. Is it the best version of Sonic? Heck no! You can play your good old Sega Genesis to play that. Instead, you're just playing a downgraded version for the Nintendo. So maybe that's a pass. Man, was there any game ported over more than Sonic? Angry Birds. Well, I'm sorry I asked that question. And this NES version of Angry Birds, you control birds trying to kill pigs. Everyone's played it, everyone knows what the game is, but the limitations of the Nintendo is what makes this version somewhat curious, because you get to launch your birds, you can't really see the whole screen at one time, and you have to adapt how you play the game to better fit the way this game demands to be played. Overall, it's kind of interesting, but you will quickly get bored of it. God of War steps in, and it's just a sprite swap of Rhaegar. I can't really say much more about the game than that, because that's all it really seems to be. I mean, God of War's sprite itself actually seems to fit this game pretty good, but I think I'm also gonna take a pass. No, I'd much rather be playing God of War 2. This time, it's a sprite swap recreation of a game. This is based off of Castlevania engine, so you could take out all of the Castlevania villains with their own custom sprites laid over top. You obviously have a whip, even though now it's your chain weapon, and the power-ups are very similar to Castlevania as well. Also similar, following in pits to your death, which will happen non-stop while you play this game. If you're really good at Castlevania, then you're gonna love this. If you're not so good, well, you're gonna be quickly frustrated with it. Deadpool. Okay, this is a little bit more what I was trying to get at. It's based off of the Ninja Gaiden engine, and all the enemies are pretty much just that. However, there are some custom ones here, including some boss battles. There's also tons of power-ups, and there's even full-fledged cutscenes in between the levels. The action is fast and furious, and it never feels unfair because your life bar is fairly long, and you will get lots of health power-ups as you play through the game. One thing's for certain, this is a better version of Ninja Gaiden than all of the other actual Ninja Gaiden video games. So Deadpool definitely has a big win here. However, it is sort of based off of another game's engine, so can we really count it as a full-fledged homebrew game? Well, maybe I'll keep looking around. Alter Ego. Well, I definitely have and played this game on other systems. You have a void negative self and your regular self, and occasionally you could switch places with them. You don't have infinite swaps though, because then that would make the game way too easy and completely take away the puzzle elements here, because you're just trying to pick up all of the MacGuffins on the screen. There are lots of different puzzles to go through, and finding the best way to clear every single level is all you have to do. It's simple to play, hard to put down, and some of these puzzles get very frustrating. Multi-dude. Okay, well this is a little bit different. This time you control multiple little dudes, and you try to put them in little boxes. The puzzle element here is how to move the little dudes in order to reach the destinations, because each one has their own different power-ups and abilities. Sometimes you'll just fall straight down, or other ones will fly around. And it's not nearly as easy as it looks. Later on in the game, you could actually get power-ups that let you switch on the fly, and then trying to figure out all the puzzles here are very frustrating, but also very rewarding. But I like a game with a little bit more action to it. Battle Kid and the Fortress of Peril. When this game came out, I was super psyched for it because it was like 20 years before anyone released a full-fledged real NES card, and this just opened the floodgates of all homebrew games for the Nintendo. It seems to be like a Mega Man style game. However, the difficulty has been cranked to 1,000,000 because if you get hit even once, you will be dead, and then you'll be forced to go all the way back really darn far. However, there are some checkpoints here, but they're not nearly often enough for me, even playing on the easiest level of difficulty, because I just die. On top of it, the whole game seems to be mostly trial and error, forcing you to replay and play again. Now I have seen speedruns of this game that makes me feel completely worthless, but Battle Kid seems to just infuriate me more than anything else, and I'd rather not play it ever again. How about something a little bit easier? How about You Taco? It's a music-based game where it's all about just pressing one simple button. The music here is darn good, and there's a full-fledged storyline, however, not very much gameplay. But I'm okay with that because I'm having a great time with it for 5 minutes until I beat the game. Yes, this was just a demo. Man, am I ever getting frustrated. Just when I think I find something good, it just gets taken away from me. Nebs and Debs, another action platformer game with a gimmick, and one heck of a gimmick at that. You can burst forward with a huge burst of speed, and you use it to move through tight spaces in beautiful platforming perfection. You could pick up to 3 balls, and you're gonna have to use all 3 of them in order to make some of these really tricky jumps. It's also your main weapon for killing all the enemies on the screen, and once you get the hang of it, you feel like a total gaming master. The sad part is, again, it's very, very short, and you can play through the entire game in less than 20 minutes. Super Bat Puncher. This is a game where you destroy bats. You also have a second player, so to speak, because you could hit the start button and there's a little bird friend that might open up switches for you as you play through the game. Well, at least it happens this once at the very beginning, and you have a super-sized boxing glove, which ends up being a really cool power-up because you could bounce off walls with it, or maybe do a rolling spin and destroy and open up levels. And as you play through the game, you will progressively get more powerful, sort of like a Metroidvania, but in its own confined levels. There's also challenge treasure chests sprinkled throughout, so if you think you have the skills to pay the bills, well then you could pick up one treasure chest, or maybe even wait for a little bit later on in the game when you figure out how to play it a little bit better. And again, this game is only 20 minutes long. However, the quality was so top-notch, I had to look up the creator of the game and find, well, what are they up to now? Were they gonna finish this? Well, sadly, no. But they did make another game that I think is worth talking about. Micro Mages. This is an action platformer game with some wall jumping and auto-scrolling up. Your character is super small, and I love games where your character is really tiny, so this had me hooked from the freaking start. There is one-hit kills here, but you can pick up a power-up that gives you an extra hit, or maybe another power-up that gives you a little bit of a flight capability. You have an action shot, so you're shooting things dead left and right, including massive boss battles. It is 1 to 4 player simultaneous action. The level of difficulty is just perfect. There's even blood when you die, and it then ramps up, always improving your skills and never letting you feel like you're a total loser for dying nonstop, unlike some of the other games. And one more thing, it uses all the regular memory of a common Nintendo game at the time. Like it's operating off of Super Mario Bros. 1 style memory. I don't know how they managed to cram such a perfect game into a tiny package, and it is a complete game. This is the real deal and the very, very best homebrew game you could possibly get on the Nintendo Entertainment System. But of course, that's just my opinion. And if you don't believe me, well, play it, and it will probably be your opinion too. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, except for the time that I deleted all of my recorded files for this game and had to start from scratch, and man, was it ever getting frustrated. But I completed it, and I did manage to find one of the best gems for the Nintendo ever. Micro Mages is a simple must-have game that everyone can enjoy, and you can play with your entire family. It makes me want to get one of those 4-player Switches, which I think I now have to, because the game is really that good. So make sure you leave me a comment on what your favorite homebrew game was. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so I can pass 10,000 subscribers, because it's a heck of a journey here. So until later, I will see you again, guys.